My name is Lena Bjørn, and I am an actress and a dramatic and a director. I work with theatre for 22 years or something. I worked with Forum Theatre since 1991. That was when the Cabaret Theatre started. I worked together with a woman who worked on a big factory here in Odense, and we started actually to do Forum Theatre with the people who worked in this factory. And later on, in 1995, we started the Cabaret Theatre, which today have 16 employees. So we are all making our living from doing Forum Theatre, actually. We have existed now for 10 years. And we work with companies, we work with private companies, we work in public workplaces of all kind. I can mention a few of our clients that you might know. We work with Carlsberg, with Lego, with Danfoss. We work with a lot of Danish municipalities. We work with ministries. We work with, well, many different workplaces where we use the Forum Theatre to work with organizational development, organizational change processes. We are not really a theatre, we are actually a consultancy, but we use the theatre as our method doing our consultancy. We work with many different groups. Sometimes we work with top managers, sometimes we work with middle management, sometimes we work with people on the floor, and often we work with the whole organization at the same time, because the idea often is, or the purpose, the need often is to create a dialogue between the management and the bottom and the middle management, up and down and side to side, but to create this dialogue. So we work with many different groups, and very often the companies we work with are in the middle of some kind of change process. So we work with change management, you could say. The Forum Theatre is a participatory theatre method where you invite the audience on stage, which very briefly spoken goes like this. You make a play, you stage some problems that the people down there know about, and when you have staged all the problems and they are at a climax, you could say, you stop, you cut. And then you ask the audience, what should happen now? Then you can do different techniques. You can either go back and say, okay, now we start all over again. If you have an idea to how this person who is being oppressed, what this person could do different, then you just raise your hand and say stop. And then you come on stage and show us what you would do. That is the basic boal, as we call it. That is the stop forum. You play the same thing all over again. You invite the audience to say stop whenever they think someone could do something else. And that is, of course, you have to replace the person who is oppressed. You must remember that this is a theatre form that was developed in a very in a class society where there was a huge difference between where there really were people who were oppressed by other people. That is the beginning of the story. The Forum Theatre was invented by a Brazilian theatre man named Augusto Boal. He was doing conventional theatre back in the 50s in Brazil. Then eventually, as the political situation developed, he started doing more and more political theatre. And at some point he got very, very involved with politics. He tells this story about how it all started. They started making plays that was about issues that the audience in the room would know about, that would be of their reality. And they were making a play, and there was a woman what's it called, in a theatre hall, who had told the story that they should play, and she was sitting there, and she was, no matter what they did, she was not content. She said, no, that's wrong, no. And eventually Boyle got so tired of her, so he said, okay, you come on stage and you show us how you want it. And that was how the idea was born, that of course you should ask the audience, how should this go, how should this be, because the audience are the ones who know. So this became like the fundamental idea of forum theatre. In forum theatre, you have a figure who is called the joker. The joker is the link between the stage and the audience. The joker is the one who makes the connection to the audience. Sometimes also the actors can go out and can ask, but it's the joker who kind of conducts, you could say he's the conductor of the work, because he's the one who have an eye on where are we, what is the theme that we're working on, and who also will kind of conduct the audience, give space and silence some, and who will do this whole work of working with the audience, with the theme, and with the actors. And when you look at forum theatre that works, you can hardly see what it is that the joker is doing. It looks like nothing. But I promise you, if you see forum theatre with a joker who doesn't know what he or she is doing, it's a complete mess. So forum theatre looks very simple, but it isn't. It's actually quite complicated. And what is the most complicated, of course, is the role of the joker, because he has to hold all these different things in his head at once. So it's very important to train the jokers, and you have to do it over a period of time, I would say, because you actually the only way, of course, you can do some training in the laboratory, so to speak. You can do a lot of training. You can teach the jokers the different techniques, and you can teach them what to say in the beginning and what to do and what to say and all these things. But the real training you can only do in front of an audience, which means that you have to have a performance. You make a performance and that's a whole other work. You have to write a play, or to make a play that you know will work. You have to have the right theme that the audience that people in the audience will recognize and will feel that they can identify with. And then when you have a play that works with a theme that is important, then you have to have a joker who can work with an audience. You can have tryout audience. You can invite your friends, or you can invite your family before you are kind of before a real audience. But you really have to do this work with an audience many times before you are fully educated as a joker.
In the type of theatre, how do you actually work? How do you use forum theatre?
Well, in the beginning, we had learned our method from Boyle. So the first plays we did were this kind of stop forum, where you actually go back and play the whole scene again, and the audience has to say stop. But of course, you cannot compare this, that the forum theatre is started in a very class divided society, and that is not exactly the situation in a Danish company. If you would use expressions as oppressed and oppressor, you wouldn't get far into a company, of course, and that isn't the case either, I think. But the idea of the audience knowing how to solve a situation, how to do something different, that was the core method that we could use. So from this stock forum kind, and from this idea of the oppressed and the oppressor, we developed the theatre into something that is more flexible and that is a lot of different techniques, but where the main purpose is to create a dialogue between the stage and the audience, and between the audience themselves, to create a dialogue about what is going on. So our opening question when we make plays is always, what is going on? What is happening? And that is to make, one of the points in this is that we all look at what is happening with different eyes. And you have your understanding of what is going on, and I have my understanding. And that is where a lot of things goes wrong also in organizations. So that is the purpose with what we do. That is to create a dialogue where maybe things has become, for some reason, very conflictual and has become a taboo, or has become difficult to talk about, difficult to work with. There, when you go in with the theatre, you can kind of unfreeze the dialogue. In the beginning, we made quite long plays. We would have a play of an hour. That would be kind of a generic play that we could play in a lot of different workplaces. Where nowadays what we make is much more tailor-made. So we go into the single organization and we have a meeting with the management, and we find out what is it that they want to work with, and then we stage a small play, maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we come back with this play, and then we start working from there, so that the theatre we make will mirror some of the problems, or some of what is going on in this organization. And then again we invite the audience, we ask them, what is happening here? And then next question is, so what should happen now? And so we start working with, you could say, in the beginning we would say that we were looking for solutions. What is the solution? But nowadays we more say that we unfold, that we say, okay, this is what is happening between these two people. So what could happen next? Aha, then if we did like this, then this could happen. So we kind of unfold the problem or the situation to see what might happen if we treated this in another way. So, because that is what we believe creates a change. That is when actually something else is happening among and between us and the audience, then that opens up that something new is happening and can happen. So that's the way, we use it in many, many different ways, but this is kind of what we do today in Da Capo. In May 2002, telephone rang in Da Capo Theatre. That was MS, or Danish Organization for International Cooperation, who called us to ask if we could send somebody to Uganda to work with Forum Theatre, teach Forum Theatre, and I volunteered. And that developed into a 6 months stay working with an organization called IATM, International Anti-Corruption Theatrical Movement, was a small organization who had organized a number of theatre groups that all worked with corruption, with the theme corruption. But up till then they had only been doing ordinary theatre, and they had heard about Forum Theatre, and they had heard that it was a participatory theatre method, and they thought that that might be a good idea for this purpose, namely to create a dialogue, because they always felt that they didn't really get into a dialogue with their audience, but they only came out and kind of told the audience not to be corrupt. And so they wanted to get into a dialogue with their audience, and they thought that Forum Theatre might be a good idea. And that was why they wanted somebody to come down and teach them. And that was how I was how I came to work with them. I was there for 6 months, and I trained 10 theatre groups, which was a lot. The way we worked was that we made a basic forum theatre course, 2 weeks course, where 2 members from each of all these groups came to Kampala and worked for 2 weeks, and we did all the fundamental training. And then me and my Ugandan counterpart, Fred Musisi Munangomba, went out to all these 10 groups, whereas 3 of them lived in Kampala and the other ones lived out in the countryside, in the villages. And so we went around and trained these groups a week, each place. We started off Monday, and on Saturdays we would always have a public performance, because the only way you can learn how to make forum theatre is that you have a real audience because before you have had a real audience, you do not know really how they will react. Of course, in the training you use the group as audience, but you never know before you have a real audience. And in fact, you never believe that the audience actually will speak up before you have tried it. So every training week we ended with a public performance. If you train the jokers will be the ones who then train the actors. So at least you have to make sure that the people who will work as jokers, that they are properly trained, and then they can do some. Then they will often be the ones who kind of hold the theatre group, because they know the method on a deeper level. First thing is that you need, of course, actors who are good actors. You don't want actors who are bad actors. But even, you could say, normal theatre actors need some other training for the forum theatre, because it has some special demands. You have to know how to make the resistance. You have to know this whole thing that is in the forum theatre, that when the audience comes up, how do you treat an audience? How do you push an audience to the limit, but not above the limit, not over the limit? You know, being a forum theatre actor is also a pedagogical role. You have to have like 2 lanes in your mind all the time. You have to be in the part you're playing, and all the time know what would this character do. But at the same time, you have to have an eye and an ear on what is going on with the audience. Where is the audience? Where are they heading? What are their interests? Where should they be challenged? So all these times all these things you have to have in mind at the same time, and that is quite demanding for an actor. So also the actors has to have some special training to be able to do forum theatre and understand what is their role in the whole thing, as I say, with challenging the audience. Mm-hmm. The whole thing with the participation of the audience is that you, as theatre people, have to do your best to make the audience work hard, because you are working with a theme that is of interest for them and which causes them difficulties. So the best you can do for the audience is to push them, to really put them to work, to push them to the limit, but not push them so much that they will say, we can't do anything about this. It's impossible. The corruption is completely impossible to do anything. You have to be able to feel where are they, so you can give them small victories, small experiences of if we did something, if we do something different than we usually do, then maybe we can achieve something. So that's the purpose, that's what you want. You want the audience to have an experience that maybe it's actually possible to change something in this world. And that's why both the actors and the Joker has to be very well trained and educated in the theme that they're working with and in the technique.
What are the lessons learned in your project in Uganda regarding the sustainability of a project?
When I left Uganda, apart from that, I had worked with these 10 theatre groups. I had worked especially with one team in Kampala, which we called the core team. And these I had been able to do some extra training with and do performances. And at the point where I left them, they were very skilled and very able to go out and do forum theatre. But what it needs is that, these are people who are not, they are professional in what they do, but they are not professional in the way that they get paid for their work, because there is no money. And that means that they have to go out and do whatever they do to earn their living. And that means that they have to leave the theatre again, which means that to do this piece of work, it is to try to go out and get fundings, get clients, get customers, make plays. The only way they can possibly become better and become really professional in this work is that they work with it all the time. And they can't, because they need to make their living, earn their living other ways. So that is actually a big problem. I wish that if I had known that they could have like just 1 month or 2 months where they could concentrate on the things that they had worked on together with me, by going out and making repeatedly performances every day, that would have given them a lot of, the professionalism that they were achieving. But since they didn't have funding, since they didn't have any ways, it kind of, I wouldn't say it got lost, because actually they managed to be sent out to both Zimbabwe and to Kenya to teach forum theatre, but really to hold it and to carry it on and to spread it, they need to work with it full time, and that demands funding. That's as simple as that. So I really hope that there will be some possibilities. Now I can think of these people in Uganda, the core team that I've been working with, that they could, at least for some period, help them become even more skilled in their trade, so that eventually, I think, they would be able to make a living out of it. But it takes a period where they have funding to train themselves furthermore. That's just how it is.
Where could this funding be coming from? NGOs, national or international organizations?
Yeah, probably depends on which themes you are working with. Probably, I know there is a lot of international funding now as for AIDS, and that is a very important issue, very, very important issue. So I suppose that with that theme, it should be possible to have some international funding, and probably also some national funding. And it's difficult with the corruption. I mean, in Uganda, they do say, the government do say that they want to fight corruption, but it's not that easy to get money for it. And I have, of course, come I've been paid by a Danish organization, a Danish NGO, and I think there are many NGOs who are interested in, also NGOs from other countries that are interested in supporting the work of anti-corruption, which is also a very important work. Because, I mean, the NGOs should be interested in that for that simple reason that a lot of the money they give out goes down the drain because of the corruption. So that's another very important issue. So I hope that there will be some both national and international funding for these very important issues to work with.
Thank you very much.